Father, do you know when we feel a weight within us, afraid that everything can go wrong? Yeah, I'm feeling that way. Do you know when a person feels lost in the midst of confusion? Yeah, this is me. That's how I feel. It is a meaningless sadness. I know I have a potential to be happy, to look much more. Even incentive other people do the same. I encourage them not to have fear, but I'm experiencing me a lot of this fear. I feel prisoner, and it has bothered me. This has given me a great anguish. Somehow we all include ourselves. Because who doesn't have to live this daily challenge? Living is a daily challenge. It's like drinking water. The water you took yesterday is not for today's headquarters. The food you ate yesterday, of course, it may be nourishing you yet, but you need to renew the food. The meaning for life is like that too. It is me to break the rules of defects for me to start living on the rules of virtues. I have sensitivity, the simplicity of identifying my excesses. What makes me a difficult person and start working. The sooner I start working this, the greater the benefit, because it's good for us to live the conversion. We are more enjoyable. We are happier. We are more fulfilled. And this is the first benefit of the convention, that when we give up these excesses, we look even more beautiful, because you start to make room to grow on you what the excesses do not allow. Many virtues do not grow in us. It is because defects, suffocity. The defect has an ordinary, absurd power of choking daily. It is just like the one who is addicted, while he doesn't look in the mirror and says, "This addiction kills me." He doesn't start to break free. It's no use saying. The addict must recognize himself as a killer of himself. Only from the moment he recognizes himself does he stop killing himself. And that addiction, which is an ordinary poison, because it is every day, he stops in the veins. He stops in his mouth. He stops polluting his head. And that person suddenly begins to perceive beautiful things, which until then she did not notice. Because addiction did not allow. My people, sometimes we are cultivating some harmful habits, and we no longer accuse ourselves. You know that a great human damage, which I have identified, is that people get used to what they feel bad. They adapt to what is bad. They lost the ability to be outraged, as I was saying. Sometimes you can't recruit the best in yourself. It is being shot down. That's IG. This is not just your problem, my daughter. All of us, if we don't take care, we lose the reference of reality. What we really need to do. For what? Do it to achieve the best of us. This is conversion. When I lose the ability to indignate with what is bad in my ambience, I lose the power to transform. It is the indignation that moves me toward change. It is a damage that we cannot measure when a human being gets used to the defects he has. Because sometimes people forget to allow God to transform their hearts. Sometimes it transforms only the outside aspect. But what about the heart? What is this that makes me before each other? Is this that makes me promoting the other in love, tolerance? Sometimes people don't look into each other. Sometimes we are feeding a difficult, heavy temperament, and we say that it is converted or is in the process of conversion. Okay, but what process is that not accelerating our simplicity, our lightness? What conversion is this that does not make me a lighter person to others? What conversion is this that does not get myself out of arrogance? It is the first sign, my people, whom they say religious, because it is the fruit of spirituality in us. I do not feel better than anyone. I look in the eyes of others without pretending that I am better than them. He knows, if I'm a good boss, it's okay to be hard. A good boss is usually hard, demanding but never arrogant, demanding but never intolerant, demanding but not unbearable. And I have the opportunity to choose to be a positive answer or be a negative answer. I can be an evangelical response here, based on this word, or I can be an unholy answer, which has no commitment to the sacredity of life. People. I can be a Christian response that will favor good friendship relationships fruitful, loving, You can be a positive answer as a husband in your wife's life, in your children's lives. You may be in your husband's life, your children, your brothers. You got out of bed, you start to be an answer to the world. This is interesting. When I realized that a sacrifice, a gesture of renunciation will help me break the power of the rules of defects. Because a human being who lives adapted to his shortcomings, a human being who lives under the rules of his defects, he is unbearable. He is difficult at work. He is difficult within the family. He is difficult in the love relationships he will live. Why? Because he's a porcupine, isn't it? You are always ready to throw your thorns on others. What to do when the past doesn't want to pass. I suffered a betrayal, and I've not been able to get back. Sandra, my daughter, the past doesn't pass when we close the door so that it won't leave. Every time we insist on martyrifying within us a negative experience, she won't pass. And we know time is the best medicine we can live and experience and manage to us. The pain that affected me so much the day before yesterday, my concern that was taking me sleepy the day before yesterday. As I am shutting down, chewing, managing the right way, putting first thing, we have to do what way I can. If something is worrying, the first thing, what can I do to decrease this concern? Is there anything concrete I can do? So okay, you have a pain, a betrayal. Have you ever been there in the trader to return his trash? Do you have something choking? Anything you need to solve inside your heart? Throw it away, through words, a cry. Whatever. Any attitude that can decrease that feeling of discomfort. We need to do it. The same thing is the concern. When something worries me and I discover that concern, what I can do to reduce the effect of this concern in my life and do it. So I start to solve. Open the doors for this past to begin to pass. Because otherwise, we will reply to the experience that was not worth it. We will hold on to the event. The event that hurt us, which hurt us. And then we will live a continuous process of injuries and injuries. Because they're a remembrance, grudge, resentment. They only cause new wounds within us. I never saw someone as flushed keeping resentment. What is resentment? Resent. It is feeling several times. It is as if you take a razor and pass it on the same place on the skin. It will never heal. And the cut is getting worse because you are injuring the skin. Harm. Wise. Will be injured. You will miss the opportunity to live the healing. It's not like this. Have you ever noticed that when you start healing, it gives a coconut? It's not like this. Healing causes a feeling of itching, right? Within us is the same thing. You can observe there are many effective situations that sometimes we are starting to recover from it. Then you have that feeling once and up. To want to resume are the healing coconuts. Hold it from there. Can keep your hatred under control. Can keep your resentment under control. Can keep your needs under control. And then you begin to live the process of liberating the negative consequences that fact has caused you. Is life? Everyone is hurt. I can't create a round for me. You can't create one for you. So, from time to time, people will hurt us with words. People will hurt us with attitudes. Now, you cannot allow the word that hurts and the attitude that hurts will cause injuries to your being and take too long. Stay inside you, extend more than the time it should be. Reached your being, it was in the deep of your life, it was in the deep of your heart. It starts to find a way to heal it. Because from the moment you have a wound in being, you risk infecting everything. In affection, this works that way. From time to time, something comes. It loses its willingness to studies, loses its willingness to work. Why? That has an impact. It affects us. Now the time that will last what it affects you needs to be administered by you. After all, it's your being that is at stake, isn't it? And suddenly you start to do everything wrong because the being is hurt. So there is always a hurt in the being that needs to be cared for. My people, this is an exercise of every day, see? To live the experience of being with Jesus is to live all the time to manage within us these healing that we need to live so that we look like Jesus. I want to look like him. But to look like him, I need to heal in my being many things that are wrong. I need from time to time visit my past to understand the present to you. Why sometimes I'm arrogant? Is it at some point in my life I was too humiliated? And because I was too humiliated, I have difficulty managing the moments when someone challenges me. No one is by chance. The healing of being happens when we pray, when I ask God to heal my heart, to heal my mind. These are expressions that we use all the time. But God often heals our hearts, heals our mind through our reflection. When you begin to put your disorderly feelings in order, when you begin to resume the harmony that sometimes life and events have taken away. And that is what I wish you, that in your life today, your story, you are committed to cure the wounds of your being. If you hurt you, don't take it to you. Just take it as a teaching, so you don't do it with another. But do not allow this to become bitter. Sadness, to be creative, has to exercise within us the movement of overcoming. So, because I'm sad, because I'm hurt, upset, I watch that moment. I live that moment as a purpose of overcoming it, because if I don't overcome, I risk turning it into bitterness. And bitterness is not good for the heart. Bitter heart cannot perceive life. Bitter heart is focused on the same things. When we focus on the same things, when we don't expand our gaze, we risk unhappy our life experience. I wish in the bottom of my heart that today your being can be strengthened. As today's program, suddenly you have found that you are being objectified by someone, that you are living the human relationship. Relationships are not respecting what you are. It's time to scream this independence there, isn't it? Because God wants you free, being able to plunge more and more in the mysteries of being, correcting being, fixing what is wrong there in being. Undoubtedly, your attitudes, your works will be much more mature, much more satisfactory. This is what we want. Having a pure heart, so that our attitude can be just a reflection of a gesture that has not even begun. The gesture, before it happens, moves me. It is a movement that the other does not see. But that leads me to go ahead, which brings me coherence, which configures me to Christ. Before my love gesture, there is a heart that loves in me. And this needs to be careful all the time, because if here the heart is too weakened, being too hurt, we risk turning it into infertile territory. Then the attitude will not advance anything. Because when we make a gesture of love, it is not only the other who benefits, but I am too. Because love, just as it is good for those who receive it, is doing very well too. Life, the disposition that characterized the heart of Our Lady, so that an example of her we can also be a true Christian, always bringing Jesus in her lap, to present him to those who do not know him yet. When we come across the condition of human existence, we invariably ask ourselves, why suffering? Why are we to be plagued by so many conflicts, disasters, problems? The media currently explores this dark side of existence. Natural disasters, wars, terrorism, broken families, people dying of hunger, people trying to survive in totally unworthy conditions. Faced with this tragic picture of human life, some will seek answers. Others will only conform. The most skeptical will come that things are anyway, because of human selfishness, adding that suffering is the greatest proof that God does not exist. That God is not good. For if God existed, he would not allow suffering. Father Fabio, what is the meaning of suffering in our lives? God bless us. A big hug. Jose Marcos, suffering, he is born. First, we need to make a distinction. When we talk about suffering, we are talking about a limit. I can live this limit in my flesh. When I cut my finger, I feel pain. Suffering is physical. When I break a bone, when I cut myself, when I hurt myself, I live the experience of physical suffering. When you are sick, when we have a fever, we see body discomfort. This, we all pass all the time. We are fragile, right? And because my body is fragile, I need to protect it. If I take a lot of sun, I risk having cancer skin. Why? Because I know my skin has a limit. And when this limit is disrespected, my body suffers. And we have another kind of suffering, which is a spiritual suffering, that we can also call the suffering of the mind, right? When I get worried about something, when I lose peace because the problems are around me. Spiritual suffering, mental, psychic suffering, right? They are unfolding of suffering. Sometimes I find people who suffer a lot because they are being slandered. Then they lose their sleep, lose their quality of life. They live depressed processes. And you cited several consequences. Various situations in which we identify human suffering. I suffer because I am limited. And truth, when someone dies in my life, I suffer. Why? Because of the limit of life. The other was limited. He is precarious. He suffers from precariousness. He is created. Everything that is a creature dies, goes to the end. The other had to die. Why? Because it was limited. There comes a time when the body runs out. You can no longer continue. Aging is like this. We are losing the vitality of the body. And the moment the other dies, I begin to face my limits. I will miss him. I will miss him. So you see, suffering will permeate human life all the time because the limit is part of our statute. Where you have a person, there you have the limit experience. And the limit, it will always be an experience of suffering. But we need to identify that there are two ways to pay attention to this limit. A first, which is quite pessimistic, which is when I begin to think my limits and the limits of others as a hindrance to our happiness. And then we fall into these phrases made in these simplistic answers who say so. God does not exist, because if he exists, he would not allow suffering. This is something we hear all the time. But let's be honest, this is a very naive perspective. It belongs to a context of idealization. A person who idealizes life a lot will think that everything has to be perfect, handsome, ordained, happy. And then we often say that God does not exist because the limit exists. So I see suffering. I can't believe God can exist. Why? This is a way of understanding suffering, a pessimistic view of it. But on the other hand, we can have an optimistic view of suffering. I begin to understand my limit as an opportunity. I have to live the experience of care. For example, let's say you went to travel, bought a beautiful piece that needs care to be transported, because otherwise it breaks. You see, what are you going to do? You will pack this piece. You will coat care. You will be cautious to take good care of the coating of this piece so that it reaches your destination. Let's say you will send a gift, so you will. You know that the gift you are sending is fragile. You don't want to break halfway. So you will take care of you, will pack in a right way so that when you arrive to the recipient, the piece is not broken. The piece breaks. This is limit. It is not unbreakable. It is not free from damage, the possibility of damage. But then I will make me revise this care situation so that it can last. And then we have the positive dimension of suffering. When suffering points us to a care we need to take. This care can be physical, it can be psychic, it can be mental. Let's say my body. I felt a pain in my shoulder. My body is warning that something is not well. So, what am I going to do? I'm going to look for a doctor to know what's wrong with my shoulder. It is a form of care. Pain is a positive sign. It is the body sending a message. That's why I am terrified of people who feel pain and don't go to the doctor. My mother lost a view because of this story. Every time she found me, it's funny, I'm feeling a nuisance in that eye. Then I spoke. Mother, you have to go to the occupational. Pasita month. I found Ana. Her again. It did so. Funny, the side is blurry here. Then I told her, Mom, I'm not an occupational. It's no use telling me. Then there was a day that had a terrible pain. There was a nervous state there. Confusion that happens indoors. So you see, Donna Ana's eye began to give symptoms. Began to indicate that something was not well. Life is like this. So often, pain signals. This physical suffering signals to a care we need to take. Let's talk about mental suffering. You start to get bothered by something you are thinking. So you are losing sleep because of that. My God. And every time you go to sleep, you keep thinking about it. If you do not make a decision in the face of what bothers your mind, it is no use suffering. Suffering will be in vain. Now, if you take a position, then say what is bothering me is a practical situation. I am seeing my son do this. This is not pleasing me. Or I see that person do this. Is not pleasing me. I go there and I try to solve. Or I try. I am being slandered. I go there and try to solve the slander. I try to clarify things and you go back to sleep right. Ready? The suffering that was bothering you, you interpreted him positively, did something around that and solved the situation. A psychic suffering, for example. So suddenly you are feeling jealous. You have a disordered jealousy of your boyfriend, your girlfriend. And when you feel this jealousy, you get aggressive. It's a symptom of something that is wrong with you. If you do not take this suffering and interpret it positively, understanding that it signals to some limit you have and that you need to overcome, you will suffer in vain. And so, my people, why does hunger prevail in the world? Because it lacks solidarity. Missing people who do something, make decisions. Why does injustice prevail? We saw this week. It's unfortunate when we turn on our news to see what happens in Brazil, and we realize that our country is in the hands of irresponsible people. It was unfortunate to see that scene of those deputies, those advisors all receiving money that is not theirs. I am not making a judgment of a situation. I am already saying what was proven now. Of the bribes and the money that go inside the underwear, the socks, it is unfortunate. Now you see, it is we who put these people in power. We are the ones who delegate the power to manage our states, our country, our cities. If we have a corrupt mayor, we were the one who elected this mayor. Aristotle already said that politics is one of the most perfect expressions of kindness. But the true policy, which is of the good man who manages what is public, so that what is being administered can reduce the suffering of the administrators. The money administered diminishes the suffering of those who contributed, which are managed by those who were elected. So many sufferings in the world, many not all, somehow were caused by human hands. That's why it is very unfair to say that God does not exist because we suffer. God exists. Now suffering is a consequence of our wrong choices. You yourself today, you lived, you went out to work, and you made choices. You fed your suffering or others. Many times our human stance, my people, I see it in myself, How sometimes I impose suffering on others because of my way of being. It is very sad when we realize that our way of being makes the others suffer. Unjust this, right? That's why we need to be very aware. Does my action, my word, have my gesture have suffered or relieved? And if we don't make the decisions, if we don't change it, it is evolving and the world gets worse and worse. It is the thought, reflected, conscious action that is capable of transforming the structures of the world. The Church of Christ present in the world is for this, and to make you think of these structures. It is to make them come to those who do not know our word. What has become us? What has founded us on issues that we consider important? It is what has transformed our hearts. Because every Christian somehow has had the touch of the Spirit. Somehow it has already had contact with the content of the Word of Jesus, which releases, transforms, which saves, relieves the sufferings. It is very inconsistent for us to think that so many injustices are happening in countries that claim to be Christians. It is impossible to admit that laws such as abortion, for example, it is intrinsically bad. To kill someone is intrinsically evil. There is no excuses for that. The other day I received an email. I don't know if it's true. They say a woman appeared in a doctor's office and told him like this, "Doctor, I'm terrified that I have a 9-month-old son and I'm pregnant again. And I came here that I would like to have an abortion." And said the doctor looked at her and said, "Great, no problem." Then she was startled, right? "How, doctor? Are you crazy? Kill my son?" Then he looked at her and said, "My daughter, killing what is in the womb is the same thing. You will kill a child too. Horse, right?" Shocks when we look in the eyes and talk, so okay, don't kill what's in the womb. We kill what's out. It is just a way to show the absurdity that abortion is. My people, all this is taking over our conscience, precisely because it is missing us. We need to take care of us. We need to flood our hearts and minds. The Christian mindset, which is certainly able to soften the sufferings of the world. Because those who have God in their hearts will think 2, 3, 4 times before harming someone. Who has God in the heart will think 2, 3, 4 times before talking badly of someone, before defaming, before spreading bad things. Who has God in the heart will think twice before deceiving the other. So it is this Christian experience that makes this meaning of suffering appear, but not negatively, but positively. The suffering that is in the other is also in me. So we identify that this is the result of a limit, and we act from this limit to improve the world we live. I wish you, in your struggles, you always have the right and the possibility of removing your excesses. So you have before your eyes your fundamental truth, without exaggeration, just you. And from that, you meet the path of life. Thank you for your affection, for your attention, and may God bless you a lot. May God pour over your heart, over your home, over your home. The love of the other is a condition. The condition for love to exist is that we give up being who we are, so something is wrong. So the other is not loving me, the other has kidnapped me. You could be asking, but Father, how a person can give up being who he is? It happens too much, my people. It happens all the time. As a priest, I have this access to the tabernacle of people's conscience. So, I find a lot of people stolen from themselves. People who had to give up being who is to have the other next door. This happens a lot. Suddenly, I love a person. I'm so attached to that person. that I am able to give up my dreams so as not to lose that person. We cannot neglect the love we offer. What boycott is this? It's an auto-boycottic, right? The person is boycotted all the time. Because she, instead of offering her the necessary love, is care, because how does self-love express itself in a person's life? Through care. From the care I have with me, with my body, with my health, the care I have with my soul, with my spirit. What I offer daily, the book I read, the music I listen to, the places I go to, the friends that I leave to have an authority about me. All this is an expression of self-love. Who does not understand? Sometimes God will tell us, it is in what has been said for a long time. Sometimes we have a lot of longing for novelty. We always want a new thing, and we forget that sometimes God tells us, it is in the roots, in what has been anchored for a long time in our lives, in that word we received from the priest who attended us in the first confession, there in our childhood, or in that preaching that was initial in our conversion process. We needed to return to these origins. Revolutionize. You know that revolutionizing is precisely you return to the beginning. It is not doing something new. It is you to resume what was original, initial. This is revolutionary. That's when you are able to recruit everything that is already old within you and allow this old to continue to communicate you. Because sometimes this is even very cruel. Sometimes a person, for example, who has been with me for 10, 15 years, wants to new all the time. I understand that this may be the expectation, but there comes a time when the news is over. What is the word that has already changed our lives? What was the phrase that changed our life? Or that triggered a process of change? This is where God lives. This is where God resides. I've heard so many new things, but what continues to gestate my daily life is the old one. That's what I heard from Father Leo so many times in my life when I had the opportunity to live with that man, when I had the opportunity to share my days with him. How many times do I catch myself renewing my life from Father Joãozinho's advice? Father Joãozinho has always been a very friendly person, very close to me. Although I do not live with him today, he remains inside me through all the advice I heard. I always say that everything that happened in my life, Father Joãozinho, who helped me open the opportunities. But this man said a lot to me that I can never forget. One of them, which is being a communicating priest. Study every day of your life, because communication is something we learn. You learn to talk about television. You learn to talk on the radio. These techniques, you go to a class, you do a course. If you have a gift for that, you go and develop. Now, content is what makes the difference in communication. I don't need Father Jones to tell me that again. I told me once, and that becomes for me a reference of novelty. When sometimes I get there in the laziness of my day, lazy to open a book, to resume some of the theology I studied. I always remember, I have a commitment to my people. The people deserve a qualified priest, just as the priests who now watch me. Our mission is like this. If we do not invest in our knowledge, the people are at the damage. Because sometimes the opportunity that person has to grow goes through me. Passes you. But the old one continues to have its value. I am very happy to be here today in a new but always old way. All that inside my heart, that is properly rooted essentially. For me, this is the word even though it has managed my days. It's calm. So much. You have no idea of so much that in my life came out of the axis since last year. Since the end of December, early January, February, March, one thing after another. And serious things, really serious, have weakened me a lot as a person. I'm still trying to manage some of them that reflected a lot on my health. I'm in the middle, I actually start today a new treatment. I had the fun to find a doctor who looked at me in full, who saw me from very well done laboratory tests. From my dear people from Petropolis, a land that I love so much, and discovered a series of irregularities that are natural from a stressful life, which we know it is the problem of all of us. I'm not just me, I have a stressful life. You have. I'm sure. But we need to take care of us. We need to make one. We need to look with love and calmly. Sometimes we look at each other too hurry. I found it very interesting because when the doctor he looked at my tests. He looked very calmly. And that was deeply transformative to me. When I had the opportunity to be before him, a very wise man, though very young, with a lot of experience, he said something that marked me a lot. He said, "Father, when we start to have the manifestations outside the body, it is because something internal is already very deficient. So sometimes we don't even manifest. Of course, sometimes we can get fat, can be out of shape. You can lose your breath when you climb a ladder. Life is teaching us. It shows us. Life is very wise because it has self-protection. The body is a very interesting mechanism. He self-protects himself all the time. So sometimes we get a flu. It's because he's shouting that he needs to rest. Sometimes we have an allergic process. It is because he is shouting that he needs attention. So at that moment when he looked at my exams, he spoke to me. Our lifestyle can kill us, as it can also save us at the right time. So, if you are here today before me wanting my help, I am willing to change your lifestyle so that you are able to favor your body. To give the response your mission needs the Lord. And I found it very, very, very pertinent at that moment of my life to hear someone who was taking care of me. I have my mission to take care of so many people. I have not measured my efforts to make all the gifts God has given me. I work a lot, but we know that within this context of hard work, which is also your life, I'm sure of that, we need the repository breaks. We need to get opportunity, the care that helps us handle the burden we take. I do not intend to stop working. I don't intend to work less. It's my life goal to keep doing everything I do. But, on the other hand, it must be my goal of life to feed with quality. Do what my body rests. It's not like this. And this time was for me, my people, an opportunity to equalize all this. I looked at my life and realized how I valued some nonsense, how I cultivated some excesses. Like some silly things I was giving attention would be perfectly dispensable. You need to be very careful when you will establish a relationship with each other by placing your intimacy, the intimacy of your heart, putting your feeling. So sometimes it doesn't work for it. I haven't matured enough to be able to for me the other. Now, you see, this suffering that you pass on to each other today, since it happened the same way in other relationships, means that the error may be just in the way you manage these relationships. We cannot consciously repeat the same mistakes. Have the courage to put it to you, to identify how you make a mistake in establishing your relationship with each other. One day you sin, we could say, not in the sense of sin that needs to be confessed to the priest. No, but that sin you sin against yourself. It gives up too much of your world to have the other in your life, which is sometimes like this. Dating begins and you immediately give up your world because you want to please the other. You give up the realities you have. From those, they were already part of you. Sometimes there are relationships where the spouses require until the other leaves your friends aside. It is not possible, there is no possibility that you establish a relationship in which you have, Father. But is not love renunciation? Yes. But you expect love to realize yourself. You hope you know that you really love and be loved to start steps toward these renunciations. You need to date without many pretensions at first. You need to date more lightly. Do not completely open your heart to someone who has just arrived. Don't you know if this will be worth it? Do not break your intimacy just to having the guarantee that the other will stay, no. Love is much easier for you to find a relationship where you feel loved when you don't expect it so much for it. When you don't create so many expectations, right? Look, you are already idealizing until the return of the boy. You are already waiting for him to arrive with an apology to be able to start with you. This is already expectation here, that you do not have the right to feed. And another. Dating. Dating is a wedding essay. When you date, you see what can work out is what not, and what has everything to go wrong, so that it needs to have the freedom to end impressive. How the bonds are increasingly transient, we have difficulty making theme or relationship breaks. That first barrier of superficiality, that it is fruitful and not just dating. No, even a friendship relationship goes through this risk. How hard it is to feed a deep friendship. Why? First, because the environments we go to don't always give us a conversation that makes us friends. It's always very troubled. Always everyone very distracted by mobile phones, and everyone each setting parallel conversations. It's a life-changing same. Goes through the concept of conversion. Interesting, right? The conversion that Jesus proposes to us is precisely that we will increasingly take possession of our hearts. It's a depth movement, you see. It is a movement that makes us have an inner search that will never end. Superficiality is end. The depth does not. When you choose to live a search for maturity, for example, like this girl here, why don't my relationships work? It is necessary to investigate. You can't go doing this compressor role just giving the excuse to yourself and others. I have difficulty loving and being loved. I have difficulty being faithful. The person never actually touches the heart of the issues, because no one is by chance. Some reason there needs to be discovered, to be investigated, so that we are able to move it. Aristotle, a classic philosopher, said that life is only worth living as it is reflected. He who does not reflect the life he lives, the one who does not reflect daily personal experience. We may even call this an examination of conscience. Makes a Christian reading of this. What is the examination of consciousness? That opportunity we have to go back to our way of living, to the life we are choosing. And then you have the courage to be your judge. To have the courage to do an interpretation. What is the judge's role? Jurisdiction is precisely to look at reality, to the parts that make up that reality, and identify whether it is fair or not the relationship that the parties are establishing. I need to do this every day with me, you too. Look at the choices you make in your life, the treatment you offer yourself, and know if you are being fair. Many times, we do not come to the answer, this girl. You may need to establish this judgment, investigate with more property. And when it comes to relationship, guys, the first thing we need to put in court is how much we love each other. How do you know it's a sick relationship? When there is no joy in delivery. When you realize that the other is asking you what you could not give to him, which is your identity. To love you, you will have to change that. Papa. That's fine. If it is to change things that were once bad in us, the love of the other does not help us, because it builds us. It will show us what we understand exaggerated, what can be cut. But when